Beautiful. Thanks
All
everyone
right.
for joining. It's good to have you here. Hello, beautiful people. Hope you're having an amazing day. You're a star. Don't let any motherfucker in this world dim your light. Today we've got the hummus wizard, but more so we've got a Reiki master, aka meditation teacher, Qigong on his way to be a master, and Jacob's going to help us with some positive insight onto how to go through this lockdown. Now, this is Jacob's second, I'm going to say, lockdown, because for him, this doesn't really affect him or his life at all. However, he has experienced the hardcore of it in Melbourne, and it's really giving him perspective on, how we can shift our perspective, in here in Sydney and more so collectively, and how to go maneuver through it. So, Jacob, man, tell us a little bit more about yourself and like what your experience was in Melbourne, man.
Yeah, you could definitely say, I've gone through the hard yards in Melbourne, like a lot of other people in Melbourne. And now I'm in Sydney, so it's funny because like Sydney's going through it too.
Yeah.
And it can be very difficult for a lot of people. If they're not used to slowing down, if they're used to doing a lot of things. So this time can be quite powerful as well, because it's an opportunity to slow down. So
100.
So last year, there was I can't even remember. I think it was like 4 or 5 months where we had it in Melbourne, and it was pretty hardcore, and it was a lot worse than what Sydney was going through right now. They had their restrictions were a lot more intense, and I kind of like initially, you enjoy it because it's like it's this excuse, and
Hold on, we've got a bit of technical issue. I'm not hearing you on this end. I might put the speaker up there. One sec.
Yeah, I turned the mic off on the other phone.
Yeah.
Because I'm hearing myself
on both sides. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you were saying like how things like slowing down, and a lot of us are not really used to that pace because we live in such a masculine way of living in society, right? We're constantly on the go, chasing goals, we're constantly in action, and that really drives us away from that feminine energy, right? From slowing down, from feeling, right? From understanding these emotions that come up, right? Especially when we take a break, and a lot of us tend to avoid that because, subconsciously, unconsciously, we consume these things that numb us from those feelings, right? Whether that be through food, whether that be through caffeine, alcohol, okay, social media, and a lot of those things as well, because, culturally we've developed these lifestyles that have been normalized. And once we, like you said, once we slow down, a lot of us just don't know how to do it. What advice can you give for people who are facing those, those emotions, especially like in these times? Because now that we're at home, we're spending more time with our loved ones, right? And a lot of these things, they come up, and we're not quite sure how to deal with them because it can be very confronting, right? A lot of it's been suppressed, a lot of it's been put in the back seat, and now that we're facing it, it's like, whoa, like, we start to react more as opposed to responding in more healthy ways, right? So what advice can you give to people who are going through that, who are slowing down and seeing those emotions?
Yeah, well, I think the process is already happening to each individual, and like you said, people have been forced now to kind of like look at their stuff. And when you slow down, it's like going on retreat. If you're going to go do a meditation retreat or something,
Yeah.
You're forced to look within yourself because there's no more distractions. There's no more worrying about making money and fitting in and doing what's right and all that type of stuff. You start to really hone in on what's important within yourself. And, obviously there's plenty, there's much advice I could give. You could start a little meditation practice. You can join a little group online. There's heaps of groups on Zoom, that I'm organizing, and there's lots of other people. You can find like-minded people, and you can sit together. So when you sit together and you practice, you can practice meditation and come in alignment with certain groups. That can help heaps. If you're on your own and you're finding it difficult, then you've got to really use our tools and reach out to a lot of other people. There are other people who will support you, and we can come together.
Yeah.
And
I think it's great that you highlight some of those points. A lot of us, now that we're in a lot of isolation, spending more time by ourselves, right? It's great that we can recharge, reconnect with ourselves, but also not steer away from reconnecting with others, because as you know, through these new regulations, through these restrictions, we feel like, okay, as much as we want to comply with these guidelines so we can move forward, right? There's a dark side to it as well. There's an opposing side to it as well, because the more we isolate ourselves from others, we're actually isolating ourselves from ourselves, because we're social creatures, and we need to be around people. We have to be in communities. Like what you're doing with your meditation group, that's incredible, man. It's so good to see people actually want to raise their hands up, and people are afraid because their ego is telling them, oh no, I can do it by myself, it's cool. I've had this issue myself where I'm like, I want to do this all by myself because I like to be independent, I like to be successful. But when we work together as a unit, we can become way more successful through that avenue, and realize that sharing our resources and so on and so forth can drive us further. Now, for those who now you said you do a lot of meditation practice. I know I get a lot of questions regarding how do I calm the monkey mind down, right? I know when I first started, it's whoa, being still, what the fuck? How do you do this? This is crazy. This is so foreign to me. And then you try it out, you go through some practice, you're like, okay, it's not that bad. What advice can you give to people who struggle to really calm the mind down, to calm the body, the soul, and things of that nature?
Yeah, well, I think if, meditation is the practice of bringing your attention into a focus point, and to somewhat stepping out of the mind and bringing it to certain areas of maybe the body, it could be the breath, it may be a mantra. So I think if you're beginning and you're new to meditation and you do have a lot of thoughts, I would recommend to practice that focused concentration, maybe a real guided style, and bringing that awareness to the breath, a mantra, or a body scan before you start getting into more advanced practices. But also, if you find the right teacher and they have a certain level of embodiment in this presence, in having a quieter mind, then there's a transmission that will be received also, and they will help you take off a few steps. Because if you're gonna practice on your own, it's going to be a little bit more difficult compared to practicing in a group or having a teacher who is embodying that presence in themselves. Because I've noticed when I'm teaching, we think that we have to say the right words, we have to do the right process and guide these people to a state of no mind. And what I realized was the state of presence that I'm in, and the more quiet my mind is in that present moment while I'm doing the meditation, the more better received the student or the person in the class. So I would probably recommend to just get in a group. You know, there's plenty of free groups at the moment during COVID. You know, if you just take the step, because we think, yeah, we can do it on our own. I was the same. And sometimes it takes for us to kind of like hit a little bit more rock bottom.
Yeah.
Or to get a little bit more desperate before maybe we jump on YouTube and we may be like looking at something, and then something pops up, and then we have an opportunity, and we're like, you know what, I'm gonna take that opportunity and dive into it. And I'm not going to be ashamed that, oh, there's something. No, it doesn't have to be there's something wrong with you. It's just something, you know, there's an awareness that's growing, and you're noticing that maybe there is something that needs to be helped, some type of support.
100%.
So reaching out to like
I had that similar experience with myself when it comes to coaching. When I was doing a lot of competitions earlier in my journey, I never wanted to coach until I realized experiencing myself just helped me highlight the things where I can improve on, you know, and really just made that progress and transition so much faster to where I actually want to be. And having that guidance and having that support, you know, there's no shame in that. There's no shame in having someone say, hey, listen, here's the things that I can give to you. This is what I can do to, you know, take you to that next level. Because, you know, sometimes we do, like, a mentor can really change the game for you, you know, whatever path you want to take. And whether that be a 5-day or a whole year, like any sort of guidance, especially right now, can be very accelerating in our journey. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with exposing yourself. You know, I try to expose myself as much as I can and say, look, I'm not perfect. We're all not perfect. There's always something we can improve on. And that's the beauty of having, like, you know, mentors like yourself to say, hey, like, it's cool, chill. This is just something that I can mirror to you, right? And that's something that you can work on. And every day we're constantly developing. As you know, we're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving. There's always going to be some sort of weakness or some imperfection, when really they're just things that we may have not seen, and we just haven't been working on it. You know, so going back to those mantras you said, they're so, like, as you know, like, words are so powerful, right? How important is it how we speak to ourselves, you know? Because, you know, thoughts and words, sound, they all have a, you know, even if we look at a scientific level, just how certain experiments conducted, you know, by emitting certain vibrations by what we think, and even the emotions behind those words have an impact on, like, plants, you know, our environments, people, our psychology. How important is it to, you know, speak kindly to ourselves? Sorry, Jacob, not hearing anything from your end. I know you've muted yourself there. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, because I'm hearing myself. I don't know if you've got the volume.
I'll mute it down in this end. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can hear myself on the. I'm keeping the volume down on the StreamYard one.
Yeah.
And the volume. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when we develop this awareness, then we can start to be more aware of our thoughts. And that's what this time is helping us to do, because we're starting to really be aware of certain things that were always there, but now they're more coming to the surface. Things are getting heightened, and they're getting heightened in the world. They're getting heightened within ourselves. And even like you said before about being alone, like, yes, it goes against our biology to be alone.
Yeah.
You know, it does. But when we step alone, it goes against the biology. But then what else comes through is something more powerful. You know, and I've seen when we can step away from all of the dopamine, all of the, say, happy chemicals that we receive biologically. They might be, you know, serotonin, it might be dopamine, oxytocin from hanging around people, endorphins. You know, when you actually have a break from a lot of that, which somewhat the lockdown actually helps. It forces you to kind of hone in. Some people, you know, they'll still like eat a lot of food, get on a lot of drugs, drink, you know, continue to distract themselves while they're in lockdown. But there's other people that have a choice to do the opposite, and they can use the time for retreat. And it's a great opportunity, because most of the time people say, oh, I want to go on retreat, I want to do this meditation thing, I really want to do this work, but I got to do this and that because I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out. Everyone's going out tonight.
Yeah.
I've got to make money, this and that. So now it's almost like you're not missing out. Everyone's staying inside. No one's worried about making money right now or getting fame. There's more important things now. So it's almost a great excuse for yourself to bring on maybe a spiritual practice, maybe that meditation practice you've been saying. I hear people all the time, oh, I got no time. And well, you got time, and now you got more time.
Yeah. Now, coming back to that, now I know a lot of people now will probably feel a little bit lost, right? Because a lot of their lifestyles were based around their jobs. You know, a lot of people are losing jobs, a lot of people are losing businesses, and can feel like, really make them feel like they're steering away from their purpose, right? It's like, oh shit, like a lot of people develop the whole purpose around their job, right? This, whatever it may be, 9 to 5, or you're working in a certain area, and how can more people come back to what their life purpose is? Because I know for me, meditation was key, right? That helped me always to reconnect with my sense of direction. Also just like journaling, making sure I've got my goals set in place. What do you advise for people who feel a little bit lost in these times? Because, you know, like you said, like going within is probably the key at this point. But what other things can they do to, you know, to have a greater sense of direction? Because right now, people are just, you know, a lot of us are taking orders, and I got to do this, I got to do that, instead of actually maybe questioning some things and think, all right, maybe that wasn't my path, maybe it served it for what it is. I'd like to go this way now because I feel like that's more aligned. How do people find that alignment within themselves?
Well, I think the energy and whatever's going on in the world is kind of allowing that to happen either way. And as much as people think they're in control of what's happening outside of them, they're not.
Yeah.
So, you know, there is an intelligence that is kind of knocking on the door a lot of the time in everyone's lives.
Yeah.
And this intelligence, you know, is, you could say it's your intuition, you could say it's God, you could say it's your higher self. But this intuition is knocking. And now, you know, some people heard the knock. Some people, you know, I heard the knock many years ago. I was somehow aware of it. Maybe the knock for me was a lot harder. You know, I had to have my door smashed down for me to hear the knock. And then I listened to it. And that put me in alignment with where I meant to go. So now, I think collectively, we're getting a big knock. Everyone's getting a massive knock on their door, and they're hearing the knock. But where before they're not hearing the knock, and they're ignoring, and they're just doing what society says they should be doing, or what their parents have said they've been doing, or what you know, the conditioning has said that they should be doing in their life, and not really living their truth. And doesn't mean everyone needs to be doing some, you know, special divine passion, you know. Doesn't mean that either. But, you know, you could still be working in a normal job, but living more of that spiritual nature as well, still within you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's
Yeah.
definitely
I think what's going on in the world now is assisting people to themselves, and for them to kind of question a lot of reality. Like, people asking big questions now, big time.
100%, man. Definitely, I realize that myself. Like, whenever you go against this knock or this resistance, more so, right? Like, there is this divine flow, this essence that oozes in everything, right? You've got this thing, love. It just perpetrates everything, right? And when we go against that, more so living in fear, right? It's like, okay, I'm too scared to do that. Whatever it is, whatever that project is, whatever that opportunity might be, right? And like you said, the more you resist it, the louder the knock gets, all right? It's like bang, 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 bang. And sooner or later, there's no ignoring it, because your calling is going to be, it'll be ringing every day. But if we want to tune into that, we've got to block out the noise, just like what you did. Just like what you did there. We've got to block out the noise. We've got to really bring peace back to ourselves.
Yeah.
We've got to control the chaos, allow the chaos to be. We can't control the chaos. We can just, control what we do within ourselves. And when we gain that clarity, we start to see, oh shit, I see the bigger picture. All right, I can see the road ahead of me. It's a lot clearer. And now I understand why this knock, all right, is constantly occurring, because there's something out there for me that really aligns with who I am, right? As opposed to other people's plans, other people's agendas, right? If you're not working on your own dreams, you're probably working on someone else's. What advice can you give for people who have that fear, right? Because we both know that fear is it's a low vibration, right? It's an illusion, right? What advice can you give to some people who are afraid to leave that environment, whatever kind of environment that may be? Like, it could be a relationship, it could be a working environment, it could be eating certain foods, all right, or letting go of certain drugs, because for a lot of people, it's all they know, right? And that's why we have that fear, because we're so familiar with that knowing. When the beauty is the unknowing, right? It's stepping into that mystery and playing around in that new field.
Yeah, well, when you step into the unknown, that's stepping more into your true nature. That's allowing the universe as well to allow new opportunities to step in. And, stepping into the unknown is basically stepping into yourself, into your true self. But like you said, the familiarity, there's a biological drive, our mind and our body. There's a system that's built, and it just kind of wants us to keep doing the same thing day in, day out. So, there is a natural resistance and a natural bias towards even focusing on things that are fearful and dangerous, because it led to our survival. So it is more biologically natural for us to focus on the negatives, to focus on things that are going to hurt us, instead of focusing on, the joy and the gratitude and the love. But when we step into the unknown, we can step more fully into these higher aspects.
Absolutely, man.
And over
Absolutely.
time,
yeah. So
over time,
so like things that I like to do myself really is just always like just switch it up. I mean, it doesn't mean you got to like ditch your family, your partner, your job, and things like that. It could be as simple as like going into a new environment, going into a new scenery, going into a different nature spot that you're that you're used to, and that when you experience that, especially on the daily or even on the weekly, however small the habit may be, really can enlighten our awareness on just how.
Well, that's why developing this awareness is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
Because that helps us step out of this identification with this biological character, with the conditions, with our problems, the personality. And we can step back and we can see, okay, because we create space. And we're like, this is not serving me. We can kind of see the battle. We're not in the battle anymore. Because when we're in the battle, we're just too busy worried about getting killed, getting hurt. But as soon as we develop this awareness, it's like we step back onto this castle and we're safe on the castle. We're still involved in the battle. It's not like we're bypassing the battle, bypassing our problems, but there's more space. We can see, okay, there's certain issues going on here that it needs to be fixed, that need to be attended to. And now that we have this space and this awareness, we can see, okay, maybe this addiction, maybe this habit I'm doing, it's not really good for me. It's not really benefiting me. Maybe this person I'm spending time with, maybe this food that I'm eating, I keep doing it. Maybe this drug or certain habit. And it's quite obvious, like it's, to know the truth about what is really not serving you, what is lowering your vibration, it's quite obvious, but we just get caught up in it because we fully like identify with it.
Like going back to you saying this getting caught up, especially with the ego, it loves to identify with a certain story, right? We talk about this a lot. The ego loves to tell this story of who we are, when we both know, like, it's just an illusion, and it's not a bad thing. It keeps us safe, right? It keeps us protected, right? How can people shift out of that? Because I know a lot of people, they want to go through this awakening, right? They want to go through this place, like, how do I identify the ego? How do I know what it is? And how can I be more of, I guess, my true self, my true nature, okay? Because it seems to me that, like, a lot of people can get very carried away with that process. In some spiritual communities as well, it's like, oh, that's ego. But then people develop a spiritual ego, and then you get all these masks on, and you don't know which one to put on, when you're playing a character in society. How can people become more of themselves? How can they free themselves from this identification?
Well, again, this comes back with that question of who am I? It comes back to, what role am I playing, and is the roles that I'm playing, are they temporary? Because you might play a different role when you're at your family. You might play a different role if you're at your friend's house, if you're at work. So all of these different roles that you're playing, they change over time. So you got to go with the question of, like, who am I that doesn't change, that has no roles? And that's tying into the awareness. It's the same thing, because that awareness that we develop is really really more developing a sense of self, because it's like we've become entwined with this character. We've lost our sense of self. We've become this person, and we've forgotten the true I, the true meaning of who we truly are. And to develop this, it takes, I think life is trying to help everyone develop this, and for everyone to come back to realizing their true nature. And I think that's what's happening on a collective level. Some may be earlier than others. Some may be not needing to go through it as fast in this timeline or in this lifetime. So developing that awareness is basically, well, the art of meditation. And sometimes life will show you. It'll cause difficulties, and it'll cause pain, it'll cause darkness. And our mind, our ego thinks, it's bad, this is a bad situation. But from a higher perspective, spiritually speaking, it's actually a good situation. Because from the higher realms, good and bad are the same.
There's no polarity. You're just pure bliss. Now going back to what you said about, like, dark stuff, right? Now I know I know most people would probably go through the dark night of the soul, and they would probably be faced with a lot of shadow aspects of who they are, and can get caught up in that aspect of that's me, but when really it's just a mirror of your subconscious that you suppressed for some time, and now facing it, we either shame ourselves for it, we judge ourselves for it, or we just don't know how to deal with it. How does one do the shadow work? Right? How does one, not identify with those things and do the inner work?
Yeah, well, like you said, that we are not these shadow aspects, but we have to still deal with them. Just like that battle that's happening, we're not the battle, but it's still in our field. All right. So just like we become identified with our problems, like you said, we become identified with all of the healing and everything like that. And yes, so it's things that we still have to deal with. We can't ignore. But if we rest in that being, if we have more awareness and step back and allow space, we can deal with it a lot better. And when we have that awareness, when we have that space, it allows for us to go through the healing process so much more easily. I've always developed a good trust. Like I've been through a lot of, they call them the dark night of the souls.
Yeah.
And you're just going through a lot of dark emotions. You might have a lot of thoughts. It might just be not an easy time in your life. And every time that's happened, it's always led me towards some type of greatness, some type of breakthrough. And a lot of the time it was leading me to connecting more to my true self, to letting go of all this stuff, to really shake my world up. So I have this trust and faith that no matter what is happening to me, even if it seems bad, even if it is bad, that it's happening for my best benefit.
Definitely more of a challenge in developing your character. If you want to level up, just like some video games, if you want to level up, you got to do some things that you may not be too happy with, or you may have to make those sacrifices that will develop that strength for you to go to that next chapter, the next phase in your own life. Now, when it comes to cleansing. Now, you're a Reiki master. You're not just the hummus wizard. You're the Reiki master. When it comes to cleansing ourselves, right? I know a lot of people have different ways. You've got crystals. You've got journaling. You've got going into nature. What are some ways to really remove the negativity in our life? What sort of detox can we do spiritually?
All right. Well, obviously there's things that we can do to cleanse ourselves. Like you said, one of the biggest for me is going into nature and having a cleanse in a water pool or going to a beach and really clearing, grounding, connecting to nature. Nature's going to be very helpful for lockdown as well. We can talk about that a bit after. Obviously, you can clear yourself. You can use crystals, like you said. You can do a lot of this stuff. But if you keep putting in more toxic energy, if you keep, say, watching the news, keep hanging out with toxic people, if you keep doing activities that are going to lower your vibration, then you're just constantly fighting with yourself. So you're like, you're bringing in toxic, and then you're trying to cleanse the toxic. You're bringing in low vibration, and I'm like, I need to cleanse. I need to clear and protect myself. So it works both ways with what are you doing right now? What are you doing in your day-to-day life? Is it raising your vibration or is it lowering your vibration? A lot of people do that. They'll even say with eating, they'll eat crap, and then they go, I need to go on a detox. And then they go on a detox, then they good again, then they eat crap, and then I need a detox again. And if you just eat well all the time, then you don't need a detox, do you?
100%. I was just going to get into that in terms of like the cycle effects, right? You know, in a lot of the fitness communities, a lot of people that jump on diets, they do these things, they get into these categories, whether that be plant-based, keto, all these things, right? And then they fall back into this cycle of their old habits, like their binge eating, what else? The cheat meals, all these things. And like you said, just as long as we eat well, we don't have to do these certain detox. We don't have to go to the extreme points, right, in order to remove these things. You can just take gradual steps. You can take little steps, right? And whether you think you're carrying this luggage behind you, right, and not shame ourselves through that process, right? You know, because a lot of it really just comes back to, you know, if we start talking frequency, right? A lot of it's just more of an energetic level. We try and detox because deep inside we've got this shame around whether that be I'm not good enough to have a boyfriend, or I'm not good enough to have this body, or whatever it is. And so we try and compensate for that, right? Through eating. Like, oh, if I eat really well, then I'm a healthy person. When no, you're a healthy person as you are. You just got to change your little habits to become that on the external world, right? As long as we come back in, you know, we go and say, all right, like, there's nothing wrong with who I am. I have no shame. I can remove these things. And like you said earlier, you know, letting go is the key to a lot of it, right? A lot of this resistance that we experience on the outside world is simply because we've got this resistance inside of us. We think, okay, there's no way I can be successful because of so on and so forth. Or whether that's an underlying trauma that we experience as a child, you know, someone's given us this idea that, oh no, success is only for one person and it's meant for the other. It's like, no, these are just limiting beliefs, right? Now you talk a lot about like belief systems and how we can shift that and really change the whole reality. How does one change their whole belief system and evolve to where they can feel like limitless, right? And feel like, you know, that they can move out of whatever it is that they've been programmed into. Because I know we all have a lot of programs, we all have a lot of these things where we think, oh, it's not for me, and that's just the way it is. How can people change their belief systems?
Well, yeah, it's good to note that, you know, naturally who you are is already this healthy person, this healthy vibrational person. And this light is always there as well. We're just kind of resisting it, you know, and there's a part of us that kind of holds us back from experiencing our true self. So a lot of it is just getting out of your own way, and just stepping into that power that's there. It's just being uncovered. Well, it's being covered, and you need to get out of your own way. And with beliefs, you know, they'll start to change over time as you start to develop this awareness, as you start to let go of certain things. You know, your beliefs will start to change in the world. And, you know, I've definitely seen that when you change your beliefs, when you change your level of consciousness, things around you start to change.
Yeah.
A lot of those beliefs are, you know, unconscious too. You know, so we might have had certain instances where we're younger, or we've been told certain things, or something that's happened to us, and we believe that if we do A, B, and C, we're going to get D, E, and F, you know. So I think, you know, that can definitely help.
Yeah. Amazing. Guys, if you have any questions, let us know. Leave a comment down below. And we got the Reiki master who can share his hummus recipe and other techniques to help you level up. Now, I know you've been doing some Qigong lately, right? You've been getting very into to the prana, to the life force energy, right? Now, a lot of people are not aware, like, you know, the prana, the Qigong is this life force that's around us. It's what perpetrates everything. It's what keeps us charged. what are some ways for us to embody more of that? Because this can really free ourselves from, you know, not just toxic energy, but also just help us feel more alive. Because right now, as we're facing more of our emotions, right, we can either focus on the negative or the positive. How important is how much of an impact can Qigong change in a person's life, and what some of the things can they do to embody more of that life force energy?
Well, Qigong is very powerful, and it's an ancient Chinese art that was developed around the same time when Buddha was around.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Qi basically is another word for prana. It's this universal life force that we can kind of tap into. You know, when you breathe, you know, when you circulate your arms in certain areas, you know, you can start to develop that. And over time, you know, like I'm pretty sensitive to certain energies, so Qigong was really calling when I started to do it. I could really feel the Qi moving through me, and the electricity and the heat, and I was like, this is something, you know, something quite special. So, you know, for me, I helped to explore it.
Yeah.
You know, it's another form of meditation. You know, a lot of these different traditions, you know, they're all kind of pointing to the one direction, really. They're all kind of trying to allow you to connect to yourself. And, you know, it can get quite mystical. Like, you know, you can really use the Qi and do some magic. And, you know, there is even a lot of backing of science behind a lot of Reiki and Qigong and what's happening in your meridian lines and all these energy centers around your body when you start to trace your hands around that. But yeah, it can be very helpful in these times to just to have some type of practice that you resonate with. It could be yoga, it could be Qigong, it could be you know, it could be anything. There's many modalities, and you just got to kind of find what you like enjoy doing. You know, and then during this time, because we have so much time on our hands, you can put in place, you know, even if you like to plan and schedule, you can put in place a little schedule for yourself. And make a little routine and practice that, and then you'll start to cultivate more of this awareness, more of this light, and that'll help your life in major ways.
That's awesome, man. Now, one thing I think a lot of people can confuse, right, is their intuition and their mind. Now, with your practices, you've definitely got a high gauge for intuition and vibration and people's energy. How can people tap into that more? Because there can be confusion with like the mind and intuition. Both are very different, right? One's a bit more of a feel and more of a compass. The other one's more of a like organizer, a planner, and a chatterbox. How does one tap in more into that intuition, that inner knowledge?
Well, like you said, one of them is a bit more of a chatterbox. One of them's a bit more louder. And it's very over-analyzing. It's very controlling. It's more soft and not as intense. So the thoughts will come through, and I'll try and analyze and this and that. There'll be like a little bit more of a story, where the intuition's kind of like very simple. It's like one or two words, if that. Sometimes it's just a feeling. It's just like it's like a knowing of the truth. Like if I was to say that the sky is blue, like you could kind of just feel like the sky is blue. If I was to then, if it was like the sky is red, it's like I'm saying it, even though you're hearing it, it just, you just know deep down it's not true.
Yeah.
You know, so the mind usually is like, oh, is it true? Is it true? This, that, and it usually gets in the way. It's quite loud. So when we can quieten the mind, we step into the feelings. All right, and we step into the body and we get out of our thoughts and we step into that space of awareness. Then our intuition has more of a voice. We can hear it more.
Yeah.
And then even that intuition, it just resonates at the right pace. It's just kind of like something that you've always known to be true.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a full embodied yes.
Yeah.
Someone says, do you want to go to this party tonight? Or do you want to go to this place? You know, you kind of feel a full body no, or it'll be like, oh, I don't know, maybe yes. Like then you kind of know, like it's probably a no if it's not a full yes. You know, if it's not a as some people say, if it's not a fuck yes, you know, then it's a fuck no,
I love that one. I was just gonna say that. I love that one. If it's not a full fuck yes, then suck it. Don't worry about it. Unless if it's a full no, if you're not like then forget about it. Move on. Other things I like to do as well is like kind of just journal the things that you want to do. Okay, that you're more aligned.
Yeah.
Or if you have a gut feeling about something, write it down and then look back on it and think, you know, did I follow on those things and where did those things lead me to? And you realize, shit, like, okay, you start to defer, like, okay, is it just the mind? Is it just a gut? I have a feeling I should be doing this thing because it's more aligned with who I am. And then realize down the line, you start to realize, oh shit, like, okay, I was right, but I wasn't paying attention to myself. I was just paying attention to what the mind was telling me, you know, which can sometimes misguide us, but you know, it's there just to kind of break down and process information as it does.
Well, yeah, the mind's looking for survival. That's its most important aspect.
Yeah.
So sometimes you could even use the mind as a tool to know where to even move forward. You know, because most of the time our minds, you know, don't want us to experience danger, but it's not real danger. So we can use that information, and if the mind's really popping up with that resistance and it's very intense, then usually we have to lean towards that because that resistance is blocking our light. It's trying to defend, it's trying to basically hold itself together so that it doesn't die, so that light or that awareness of yourself doesn't fully come through. It's scared of losing grips.
Okay, I'll wrap it up with one more question, man. Seeing as someone who's as woke as the hummus wizard, who's broke himself free from the matrix, man, what broke you free? Because I know everyone's got some sort of different trigger. Sometimes it's drugs, sometimes it's childhood trauma, or you come across some sort of piece of information and you're just like, whoa, how was I not told this? Why haven't we learned this in schools and education systems, all right? Why haven't my parents told me this? Or, you know, things like that. What made you break free from, you know, the matrix, this system that we've created in society? And how can others go through it as well?
Well, I think if you are watching this and you are interested in whatever we're talking about today, then you probably are going through it or will go through it eventually.
Yeah.
I think for me, it wasn't really, like I said, not my choice. I think something was pre-planned and I was meant to go through this certain awakening, you'd say, to realize myself. It started from, you know, deep panic attacks, anxiety, drug addictions. You know, there was early day catalysts, which, you know, were baby steps towards me eventually learning, you know, a little bit of self-development. I kept seeing meditation pop up everywhere because I was starting to not basically listen to the doctors or the psychologists. I was starting to kind of question and look for myself, because I didn't take any medication or anything like that. So I was forced to, you know, go through these constant panic attacks and anxiety 24/7, which you know, broke me down, and it led to me learning meditation. It led to me finding out certain truths about this world, which also led to understanding that there is more to this world than what we just see. There's more to people that are, say, running this world, the people who have money in this world. There's also more to outside of this world.
Yeah.
And that all unfolds. So that's what kind of helped me. Again, that's why I see like lockdown at the moment, even though it's negative and there's suicides and things like that. Yes, it's bad.
Yeah.
People are losing their jobs. People are losing money.
Yeah.
People are getting depressed. Rada. Like, I think it can be perceived as a negative thing, but from a spiritual perspective, it's actually causing big awakenings on the planet, big time. It's causing people to look at their shit, ask bigger questions, and maybe even that fear rattles the cage a bit. Maybe even that anger rattles the cage a bit to take them to the next step of their awakening. I've seen it in a lot of my family and friends in Melbourne. They woke up and they started to realize things in this world that they were never aware of for their whole lives. So if it wasn't for what's going on. But I would recommend for people, if they are getting into conspiracies and they're looking into like propaganda and a lot of fear-mongering timelines, I would say it's great to be aware, but I would also notice where your energy and your attention is going. Because what's most important is to stay in a higher frequency during these times.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Where our focus goes, energy flows, and that's what continues to grow. Wherever we pay attention to. Now, along my journey, I've seen when you go through the rabbit hole and you question all these things, the more questions you ask, the more answers you get, and then you keep going through this cycle of you want to know more, and it's never enough, and you start to lose your sense of self and your own purpose, which is great because the more you lose yourself is the more you come back to who you really are, right? And really take everything with a grain of salt, even nowadays, right? Whether it be conspiracy, whether it be science, and realize that you're not going crazy, and you're allowed to question these things, right? You're allowed to say, hey, I don't quite believe that. I'm going to do my own research and verify that for myself. You don't have to be a doctor or a scientist to confirm something to be true, right? These authorities are great. They help us to give more verification on certain subjects, but at the same time, allow yourself to make those decisions for yourself, right? And realize your own truth, right? Because we all have our own truth. Not to say that there is no right or wrong, which kind of is paradoxically, we all have our own value system. However, if you're going through this process, don't be afraid to give Jacob a shout. Say hello, have some guidance, ask some questions to some people who've gone through that path, right? And maybe get them to help you walk through out of that, because it can be quite scary. I know I wanted to when I went through that, I was depressed and I hated the world because I thought, what a shit place to live in, right? When really it's so fucking beautiful, as long as we place our attention and, like you said, place that awareness on holding that high vibration and holding that peace and bliss, so we can all come up together to that level, right? As dark as the world seems, it's actually a pretty amazing place. It's just that the media has really brainwashed us into thinking, oh fuck, like it's so dangerous, right? But really, no, there's so much more beauty in the world, because there is just so much more beauty in the world.
100%. And then if you're watching things like the media all the time, then like if you're watching the media, or if you're watching certain things that are dark all the time, you're going to start seeing more of that in your reality. So we have to be mindful of where we're focusing.
Yeah.
what we're paying attention to during these times. Like you said, the beauty exists and the darkness, it all exists.
Yeah.
But you just got to choose. Like if you go out into nature, nothing's going on. People are all in panic about, you know, this virus, for example, and not that they realize, but you know, people have always been dying. It's nothing new, and that's a cycle of life. If you look, people are being born, people are dying, and you know, it's not like anything dangerous. So it's, if you actually look at the facts, again, coming back to the truth, and you see the truth for what it is, it's like there's no danger. They're just creating this hype over nothing. If you come to the present moment, you see nothing's wrong. It's beauty. Look at the sky. Look at nature. Look at people around you, and you're smiling. You know, it's all of that perspective, and they use our attention as a collective.
Yeah.
If we all start focusing on this big problem, we start creating a problem that doesn't exist.
100%. I was listening to this podcast that mentioned a lot about how there's a huge death culture, right, about in society, and we've kind of like normalized it, right, like through video games, through movies, through the news. It's like, oh shit, like this is part of my reality, and I've got to be on edge like half the time, and this is what it is, right? It's like instead of like embracing more of the life aspect, right? More of, like you said, more of nature, more of the peace, more of coming back into center. And I think with that as well, like, you know, going back to like even like the produce that we consume, you know, are we consuming foods that are full of life? Are we consuming foods full of death? You know, and a lot of these things of what we digest and what we consume affect not just our mind state, but our guts, right? So again, like you said, where we place our awareness has a huge impact on what we experience on the daily. And the less time we spend on TV and, you know, watching these programs, which they're programs, all right? They're designed to program our minds. The more we can see, oh, like, all right, there is more to the world than actually these death cultures that we've created as a society, because you know, as much as we want to stay informed, we want to stay in the loop, you know, if it's that important, you'll hear about it, right? You'll hear about it. You don't it's good to stay up to date with these things, but don't let it consume you, because what you consume consumes you, right? So you know, I stopped watching the television for years now, and I'm so glad, I'm so thankful. It's let go of the Netflix and the news, and now if I want to hear what's going on in the outside world, I just say hello to my family, or, you know, some people are still, you know, plugged in. It's like, oh, okay, it's the same shit. And as you know, like a lot of it's just repeat. It's the same thing. Death here, war there, yada yada. When, you know, it's like, oh man, if we want to bring more peace, it starts with, you know, what we eat and what we bring to ourselves, what we put into our own body. But yeah, man, lovely chat. We've gone through an hour of sharing some very helpful information. I'm so grateful for your time, man. For those who want to connect with the Reiki master, the meditation master, you can find him on Instagram at JacobIM_. I'll leave a plug on the Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram handles. But if you have any questions now, let us know. We're so thankful for everyone who's watched this and tuned in. And, you know, as much as you like to go playing around and doing some work, we're very thankful for sharing some of this information to help you, you know, raise that vibration, you know, to raise more awareness, because at these times right now we need unity. Jacob holds meditations, I think Zoom meditations every week. Is that right?
Yeah, every Thursday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m.
Yeah.
We do free meditations at the moment.
That's amazing.
Meditation, yeah.
That's amazing. Free meditation. And I can tell you from my experience from the men's circles that Jacob has held, it's been absolutely mind-blowing. I always come out feeling so fresh, feeling so centered, so grounded, and have a greater clarity of my own purpose and what I'm here to do. So thank you so much, Jacob, and thank you for everyone that's tuned in. We're very grateful, and we'll see you guys soon. And then we'll reconnect again and help people, raise the vibe, because that's what we're here to do. We've got to raise our vibration.
Yeah.
So thanks once again, everyone, and stay woke, blessed, and alkalized. Peace out.
Peace out.